Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's geography lesson. My name is Nomthandazo Malembe. This lesson is brought to you by the Northern Cape Department of Education in collaboration with Phakama Research and Development. So in today's topic, we're going to focus on paper 2 revision under question 2. But before we start with our revision, I just want us to go through our lesson objective for today's lesson. So by the end of this lesson, learners, you should be able to identify the structure of paper 2. We are focusing on question 2. You will remember that question 2 consists of your economic geography. So before we start again, let us go through the examination tips. So in our examination tips, we're going to start with the structure of the paper. Your paper is allocated with 150 marks and the duration of your paper is 3 hours. In your question paper, you will have 2 sections, which is your section A as well as your section B. Under your section A, you will have 2 questions, which is question 1, your rural and urban settlement, that will be 60 marks. And your question 2 will be your economic geography and it's 60 marks. Then your section B, it's your map work with 30 marks. So that makes the total of 150. So to further break down the questions, in your question 1, as I've said, you have your rural and urban settlement questions. So in that question 1, you will have your short objective questions. Those are your one-word questions. You may get them as a column A, column B, or as a multiple choice, or you will have to choose from the brackets. So that will be your figure 1.1 as well as your figure 1.2. Together, they will make 15 marks. One will have 7 marks and the other one will have 8 marks. Then after that, you will have 3 questions, which is your figure 1.3, 1.4, and 1.5. In those questions, you will have 1 question that is based on a paragraph question. Then we move forward to our question 2. Our question 2, again, it will have your short objective questions with 15 marks. And then the 3 questions or the 3 figures, you will have 1 with your paragraph question. So today's focus again is on question 2, which is your economic geography. Remember again, we will never know which subtopic they will choose under economic geography. So it is best that you read everything. And then after that, you will have your section B. Your section B is your question 3, which is your map work questions. Under your map work questions, you will have your map skills as well as your calculation with the marks of 10 marks. And then after that, you will have your map interpretation questions, which is 12 marks. Remember, in your map interpretation questions, it will be based on your settlement geography as well as your economic geography. And then lastly, you will have your GIS. Your GIS, it has 8 marks. Remember, you can be given any GIS application, then you need to apply it. And then we're going through the time you're having your question paper now. You are in the exam center. So the first thing, when you are given that 10-minute reading time, you need to make sure that you read the instructions carefully. So reading the instructions, you start by the one in page 2, whereby is the general instructions for the whole paper. So you need to read all of those so that you ascertain yourself what you should ask. And also they remind you in terms of your question 3 that you must make sure that your calculation, you write all the steps and also your units, as well as the measurement. Then after that, now you are done with the reading of the instructions and you are starting to the real questions. So in the questions again, they will tell you refer to the infographic or refer to the diagram or you refer to the photograph or an article. Remember, you need to study the diagram first. And then once you understand what is happening in the diagram, surely you will be able to answer all the questions. And then secondly, you need to read the questions twice before you answer. So read it again and then you read again so that you make sure that you understand the question. Sometimes read the questions and then translate into your own language so that you are sure what the question is asking. Then thirdly, you need to underline the keywords. Like if they're saying explain, account, you state or you name. So you need to underline the keyword and also the action verb. What is the question asking? By underlining that again, you will have a proper understanding or a clear knowledge on how to answer. And then after that, you need to check mark allocation. So mark allocation is very important because sometimes they can just give you a question without telling you how many responses you should give. So if you get a question and you see that in the mark allocation, it's saying 2 times 2, it means there you need to give 2 answers or 2 responses that will give you 2 marks each. And then after that, you need to make sure again that you study the diagram or the infographic that you are given. Most of the time, you will find the questions that says according to the extract or refer to the infographic. So therefore, you need to interact with the infographic that you are given. And then we're going to start now with our question 2 revision. Remember I said you will have 5 figures. You have your 2.1, your 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, as well as your 2.5. Together they make the combination marks of 60. So in our figure 2.1, these are our short objective questions. Remember, you need to make sure that you collect all these 15 marks. And then looking there in our instruction, it says the sketch below, which is this one, 2 types of farming. So you are given A and then you are given B. These are the 2 types of farming. Match the descriptions in question 2.1.1 to 2.1.8. So what does it mean? It means your figure 2.1, it has 8 questions. Again, you need to make sure that your numbering is correct. Your 2.1.1 in a sequence up until you reach your 2.1.8. So now you need to understand we've got the 2 types of farming. You are given a diagram. There is one at A and there is one at B. So again, going through the diagram, you need to identify what do you see. Let's start with diagram A. As you can see, there are people there who are working a manual labor. They are using their hands. And also, there is one man there. Again, he's also using a manual labor. And then we are given them. There is one there with the cow. So you have to see that in diagram A, there is a variety of farming that they are doing. And then again, we've got the crops there. So you have identified all of these things. Then now you need to name what type of a farming is A. They are using a manual labor and there is a variety of crops or activities that they are doing. And then we're coming to diagram B. In your diagram B, you can see there is a tractor there, which means all the work is done using this tractor, which is the machine. And you can see this is a large plot. Again, here at A, you can see it's a small plot. Then you will remember when we're still studying that we said these characteristics of the type of farming, we call it a subsistence farming. And then at B, you can see they are using equipment and there is a large area that they are farming. We said this is a commercial farming. Remember, your subsistence farming are those types of farmers who are farming for their families and then they sell the surplus locally. And then when we come into diagram B, we said this type of farmers which are commercial farming, they are strictly farming for a business. And after that, they focus on one crop at a time. So now, it's time for the questions. You have 3 questions in front of you. The first one, it says the farming that produce a high yield per hectare. So we're talking about the farming that produce a high yield per hectare. So again, you look at A, you look at B. We have identified the characteristics of these types of farming so that you can be able now to be positive when you are answering. Then 2.1.2, associated with extensive. Remember, there's a difference between intensive and extensive. So associated with extensive farming practices. Then number 3, the product for the home and the export market. Is for the home and for the export market. Again, you need to understand what is export. So I'm going to give you 1 minute per question, which means I'm going to give you 3 minutes. And then after 3 minutes, we're going to proceed to the next question. Right? So I believe we are all done. So we can move to the next question. You have your question 2.1.4 up to 2.1.8. Your 2.1.4, the farming described as a small scale. So the key is the small scale farming. Remember, we've got the small scale and we have the large scale farming. Then number 5, the farming associated with the monoculture. So the key here is the monoculture. You need to understand the term monoculture. What does it mean? Then number 6, the farming that is capital intensive. So capital intensive, and they uses advanced technology. And then number 7, the farming that focuses on food security. Again, you need to understand the concept. What is food security? So they are focusing on food security in local communities. And then lastly, the farming that produces a low yield per hectare. So now you have 5 questions, which means I'm going to give you 5 minutes. And then after 5 minutes, we will then proceed to the corrections. With the hope that we are all done. So looking at the solutions, as the first question, the farming that produces a high yield per hectare. We are looking there, it's B. Why B? Remember B, they are using advanced technology methods. So therefore, their yield will be higher as compared to A, whereby everything is done manually. Then secondly, associated with extensive farming. Again, there is a difference between extensive and intensive. So I always tell my learners that you need to check the first word. So I'm gonna write intensive here. So in, it means there is a lot of work that has been put in. As you can see here in diagram A, that they are using a manual labor, so it's a hard labor. There is so much effort, or there is so much work that they have put in, but the yield will be lower. So we refer them as the intensive farming because everything is done manually or is done using their hands. Then associated with the extensive. So extensive, there is no much of work that is being done because everything is done using the machine, or they are using an advanced technology. So I hope you get the difference between the two. Intensive, there is so much work that has been put in, and then extensive, there is less effort because everything is done using the machine. Then we're looking at your third question. It says the product a product for the home and export market. Remember, we said at B, your commercial farming, they are strictly farming for the business. So they sell their product locally, as in a home market, and then after that, they are even able to export. Remember, export, we're talking about the goods that are being sent out of the country to the other countries. So because these ones are strictly farming for the business, so they are able to sell their products in the home market as well as in the export market. Then we proceed with our 2.1.4, as it says, farming described as a small scale farming. So it's A, as you can see there, it's A, they have a small plot of land and they are having a variety of crops or variety activities that they are using. So we refer them as a small scale farming. Farming associated with the monoculture. Remember, mono, it means one. One of the characteristics of a commercial farming is that they only focus on one crop at a time. So hence the answer is B. Then we're looking at your 2.1.6, farming that is capitally intensive and uses a advanced technology. So the key there, they use advanced technology. Hence the answer is B, because we cannot say it's A, because at A there is no technology that has been done. Everything they are doing it in an old way. Then we proceed to your 2.1.7. Farming that focuses on food security. Again, you need to understand that food security, remember, we're talking about when everyone in the country is able to have access to food that is healthy or that is nutritious. So as you can see there, they are focusing on variety of crops. So it means their focus is only on them food security. And then after that, we're looking at your 2.1.8, the farming that produces a low yield per hectare. As you can see, their farming is done in a small area. So of course, in a small area, you will also have a small yield or a low yield. Again, because everything is done manually, there are no scientific methods. So also that will make the low yield as per hectare. Then by now, you should have 8 marks. Then after that, we're moving to figure 2.2. Remember, your figure 2.2 is another short objective questions. As I've said, you can get them in a multiple choice, or you choose between the brackets or your column A and column B. And then in your figure 2.2, it says choose the correct word given in brackets. So here, the questions are based on the types of industries. You will remember that we have 7 types of industries. So your 2.2.1, light or heavy industries cover large area and tend to cause more pollution. So here we underline they cover the large area and they tend to cause more pollution. Is it a light or is it a heavy industry? Then secondly, a power station is an example of a market or a raw-orientated industry. The key there is the power station is an example of which of these type of industry. Then your third question, the location of, is it a Footloose or the Abequas? I know between the two is very confusing, but you need to master the few characteristics that makes the two differ. So the location of Footloose or Abequas Industries is not determined by the location factors such as your raw material, your transport, as well as your market. So again, I'm going to give you 3 minutes, 1 minute per question, and then after 3 minutes, we will proceed to the next questions. Hoping that we are done. So let us look at your question 2.2.4 to 2.2.7. Light or heavy industries can be located around the CBD. So we are looking at the industries that can be located around the CBD. Remember, it is important to know the industry as well as its characteristics. Then number 5 is the market or raw material oriented industries generally produce low order and perishable goods. So they are perishable and they produce the low order. So is it a market or is it a raw material oriented? Then number 6, your bridge or your raw material oriented industries are located near the harbor. So they are near the harbor where the raw material are imported. So is it a bridge or is it a raw material? Then your number 7, your ubiquitous and your market-oriented industries like telecommunications. So telecommunications are not determined by any specific location requirements. So again, I'm going to give you 4 minutes, and then after 4 minutes, we will then be able to proceed to the corrections. Girls and boys, I believe that we are done. So let us look at our solution. So our first question, we were supposed to choose between the light as well as the heavy. But we are given that it covers the large area and it causes more pollution. So those are the characteristics of the heavy industry. Again, it's one of the reasons why the heavy industries are located in the outskirts, because they cover the large area, which means they take too much space, and most of all, they are causing more pollution, which means they need to be away from the people. Then secondly, the power station is an example of your market or your raw material. Remember, the power station like your Eskom, they need to be next to the coal mining because they are generating electricity using the coal. So therefore, we call them the raw material oriented industries because they need to be closer to the source of raw material they are using. Then thirdly, the location of the Footloose. So the difference between the two is that the Footloose, they are only dealing with appliances or anything that is not expiring. So therefore, your ubiquitous, yes, they also not have factors such as your raw material, but these are the types of industries that deals with telecommunications. So the location of Footloose industries is not determined by the location factors such as raw material. They are not depending on any raw material. And secondly, they are not depending on the transport or as well as the market. Why? Because their goods, they do not expire. So these are the types of industries that they deal with the electronics. Then your question 2.2.4, the light as well as the heavy industry can be located around the CBD. You will remember that the light industries, they can be located around the CBD because they're only using small machines and they require a small space and they are less or no pollution at all. So hence they can be around the CBD. Then number 5, your market or your raw material orientated. So we're looking at the industries that produce the low order. You will understand that the low order, those are the types of goods that we normally use every day and we buy every day, and they expire, as they say, they are perishable goods. So they are given a specific time. We're talking about your bread, we're talking about your milk as well as the meat. So we call them the market orientated industries. Again, these industries, they need to be closer to the consumers so that they can sell their goods very fast. Then number 6, your bridge or your raw material, we are given the bridge. You will remember the bridge, it has the alternative name. We call it a break of bulk. So sometimes the examiner can use the bridge or they use the break of bulk. So what is important, these are them orientated industries that are located near the harbor. Remember, they are dealing with the raw material in bulk. And we also say one mode of transport replaces the other. The goods, they start from the ship, which is the water mode, and then they get to be transported by trucks or they are going to the airports. So one mode of transport has replaced the other. Then number 7, ubiquitous or market-orientated industry. We are given the ubiquitous, like telecommunications. So the key there was the telecommunications because the ubiquitous are those types of industries. We can say it's our cell phone network providers like your Vodacom, your MTN, and so forth. Again, they do not need a raw material and they do not need a transportation or a special requirement. Network is needed in all the areas. So it's the ubiquitous, and then your Footloose. Those are the types of industries that deals with electronics. Then by now you should have your 15 marks from 8 marks in figure 2.1 and 7 marks in figure 2.2. Then now we come into figure 2.3. Remember your figure 2.3, now you will have your one word, you will have your short medium, whereby you need to describe or you explain 1 times 2 or 2 times 2, or the long questions, which are your 3 times 2 as well as your paragraph question. So again, it is important that you go through the infographic. So hence you see, refer to the infographic below about beef. Remember this year, one of the questions in our South African product will be asked is beef. So now in our infographic, we have our pie chart. In that pie chart, it says the beef slaughtering per province during 2019 and 2020. And then again, you are given the logo of 2 companies, big companies, which are producing beef in South Africa. You have your Karen Beef as well as your GNR Beef Masters. And then again, looking at the provinces that produced during 2019 and 2020, we are looking at Eastern Cape there with 8%, your Free State with 19%, your Gauteng with 17%, and then your KwaZulu-Natal with 9%, and your Limpopo with 5%, and then Mpumalanga with 21%, and Northern Cape with 7%, and then Northwest with 9%, and Western Cape with 5%. Then we proceed. We are still in the infographic. I've broken them so that you can be able to identify all the things that you need to identify. So secondly, in our infographic, we have this table. So this is the beef import quantities as well as the values. So the thousands tons versus the quantity or the value. It's starting from 2011 up until 2020. So you can see the trend there. And then next is our infographic. So this is an extract again. Commercial farmers are estimated at 22,000 and employs 138,000 people. Emerging farmers and communal farmers are at 3 million, which employs 9 million people. These are approximately 100 commercial feedlots with 5,000 employees and 332 abattoirs in South Africa. Beef industry is a major contributor to the livelihood with 2,125 thousand people who are dependent on the livestock industry. So again, this is part of the infographic or the diagram for figure 2.3. So remember, we said we start by analyzing the diagram and then after we go through the questions. So before we go through the questions, I just want us to go through the tips again. You read the extract as we have done it. You read the graph, we have done it again. Then you read or you go through the pie chart so that you can be able to identify the information that you can use there. And also, you then need to read the questions so that you can spot which questions that you need to refer. It's either to the pie chart or to the graph or to the extract. And then looking at our answers, you've got 5 questions there. The first one, it says, which province had the highest percentage of beef slaughtering? So you can see that question 1, you need to refer to the pie chart so that you can see which that province with the highest percentage. Then secondly, you name 2 major beef provision companies from the infographic. Again, it was important for me to make you aware that those companies are the 2 major beef provision. Then thirdly, you explain the correlation between the beef export as well as the beef import. So 1 times 2, meaning you need to give 1 answer that will give you 2 marks. Then number 4, you explain how beef farming cause environmental injustices. As you can see, the question did not tell you how many answers you should give, but by looking at the mark allocation, you then see you need to give 2 answers because of 2 times 2. Then number 5, why can beef production be seen as an economic benefit? So we're talking about the beef production that can be seen as an economic benefit in the areas where beef are being produced. Again, they did not tell you how many responses or how many answers you should give, but by looking at the mark allocation, it's saying 3 times 2, which means you need to give 3 responses. So now that we have seen the question, it is that time that now you need to go back to the infographic because now you know which question you are looking for. So we're going to go through our infographic. So now you can do it in your own. So we're going to start with the pie chart as well as the beef companies. So in your own, you go through. I'm going to give you just 2 minutes to go through the pie chart as well as the companies that produce a beef in South Africa. And then after 2 minutes, we're going to proceed to the graph. And then after that, we're going to go through the article. Then you will be able to answer the question. So your 2 minutes start now. Hoping that we are done, girls and boys. So let us look at the graph. As we have seen there, the thousands tons as well as the years from 2011 up until 2020. We are looking at the million in rands. So again, just 2 minutes will be enough. And then after 2 minutes, we'll proceed to the next graph. In our next graph, we are looking at the beef export. So the millions in rand again, starting from 2011 up until 2020. So another 2 minutes so that we can go through the extract again. Now you read the extract on your own. I'm going to give you another 2 minutes, and then after 2 minutes, you will then start to answer the questions. Right, girls and boys, it is now time to answer your questions. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes to answer these 5 questions. And then after 10 minutes, we will then proceed to the corrections. Grade 12, with the hope that you are all done. So looking at our first question, it says, which province had the highest percentage of beef slaughtering? By going through the pie chart, you will realize that Mpumalanga was the one with the highest percentage, for 1 mark. Then secondly, you name 2 major beef provision companies from the infographic. Remember, you might know some of the company that produces or provide beef, but now the question says from the infographic, which means you need to bring the one in the infographic, not the one that you know. So we've got the Beef Masters as well as the Karen Beef. You have 3 marks that you taken from the infographic. Again, the importance of going through the infographic. Then your third question, you explain the correlation between your beef export as well as your beef import. Remember, the export is going out and the import is coming in. So the more beef that is produced, it will result into the lower amount of beef imports. You'll understand that if we take a more of the import, it means the beef will be very expensive. But if we produce higher, it means it will also lower the prices at the market. Then your number 4, you explain how the farming caused environmental injustice. Remember, when they are saying environmental, you shouldn't give social issues like people will get sick and so forth. But we're looking at the environmental injustice, what will happen in the environment. So number 1, we're talking about the livestock, which is the cows. They get fed by the grass, which means the overgrazing will result into a soil erosion. Remember, overgrazing, grade 10 content, is whereby we allowing too many animals to eat grass in one area up until there is no grass left. So that overgrazing will also be the cause of soil erosion. Soil erosion, it will then affect our plants. Then secondly, we're looking at the cow that will contribute to the global warming. Again, we have learned in grade 10 that the cows, they also contribute to their global warming. And then we're looking at the cause which will damage the natural vegetation. We still need that natural vegetation to lower the causes of the global warming or also to decrease the temperatures. And also we're looking at the cows which will influence the quality of water. You remember the cows, they mess anyhow. So if there are so many, it will also cause that the quality of our water that we drink. So it's any 2. As long as we have 2, you will have your 4 marks. And then your 5th question, it says, why can beef production be seen as an economic benefit? When they are talking about economic benefit, it's something that will benefit it's either the country or the area in terms of money. So number 1, the beef contributes towards the food security. Again, we need to be healthy so that we can be able to work. So with that beef, it also contributes to the food security, which means people will have something to eat. And then after that, we're looking at the beef that will be sold to the local communities. If they are selling it to the local communities, again, it will be cheaper and it will be the benefit in terms of the health of the local communities. And then thirdly, we're looking at the transportation of cows, which will also provide the income. You might find there is one person who has a truck but is not involved in the livestock. So those people involved in the livestock, they will be able to hire the truck from that person, which also will provide an income for him or her. Another, it will also provide the employment, as you've seen that there are companies that will be able to hire the people. And also, we're looking at our figure 2.4. Your figure 2.4, it says refer to the extract and the map, which means in this diagram, we have the extract and we have the map. So we're going to start with the map of the Southwestern Cape Industrial Region and the Saldanha Bay IDZ. You will remember that this year again, the IDZ that will be on focus or in question is your Saldanha Bay. So you are given a map there of the Western Cape Industrial Region. So as you can see, it says Western Cape as well as the Saldanha Bay, your IDZ. So now let us go through the extract. In the extract, it says, due to the good consultation between the government and the Saldanha Bay community, this town in the Western Cape has a potential for economic growth and job creation. There are signs that direct a foreign investment will increase in the future. So again, you need to understand what is the benefit of the foreign investment. And many lease agreements have already been signed by the oil as well as the gas companies. The harbor is being expanded to cater for the growth taking place, and 2 major wind energy projects are being financed. This area also has a number of unique natural features like that attract your tourists. So now let us go through the tips. You go through the diagram as we have done. We have seen that in our diagram there is a map, and that map is map of the Western Cape industries, and we've got the IDZ there, which is the Saldanha Bay, and then we also have the extract that we just read. So now you need to remind yourself, what have you learned in the IDZ? And also the factors that favor as well as the factors that hinder the development of the IDZ we are referring to Saldanha. Then, looking at the questions, you have 5 questions again. The first one, what does IDZ stand for? Just for 1 mark. Then secondly, you name 2 alternative energy sources in Southwestern Cape used to generate electricity. And then number 3, you give 2 reasons why Saldanha Bay IDZ has a potential for economic growth, 2 times 2. And then number 4, you explain the main factors that hinder industrial development in Southwestern Cape Industrial Region. Again, you are naming the factors that hinder. Remember, there are factors that favor as well as the factors that hinder. And they did not tell you about the answers. You need to give 2 looking at the mark allocation. And then the 5th one, you explain 2 advantages of industrial decentralization. So again, you need to understand this concept. What is decentralization? For the core industrial region in South Africa, it's another 2 times 2. So now that we have seen the question, I'm going to allow you to go back to the diagram so that you can be able to spot what you need to take down there. Remember, we start with the map. I'm just going to give you 1 minute to go through the map, what you can identify, and then after that, your 1 minute will be up. So let us go through the infographic or the extract. I'm going to give you 2 minutes just to read the extract on your own, and then after 2 minutes, you will then be able to start answering. I believe you are now ready to answer the questions. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes, and then after 10 minutes, we will be able to proceed to your corrections. Right, girls and boys, looking at our corrections, the first one you were supposed to give, what does IDZ stands for? You will remember we're talking about I for industrial, and then D is for development, and then Z is for the zone. So industrial development zone, 1 mark. And then you name 2 alternative energy source in the Southwestern Cape that used to generate electricity. So you will know that Western Cape, they do not have a coal. So therefore, they depend on the nuclear power as well as the wind power. Then your number 3, you give 2 reasons why Saldanha Bay has a potential for the economic growth. So the first one, you have read in the infographic or the extract that it has the rich reserve of oil as well as the gas. So therefore, these are the resources that are being needed nationwide. So if they are rich reserve of oil as well as the gas, that puts them to be on a potential for the economic growth. Then secondly, we're looking at the location along your Western Cape, which is your west coast, that enables the trade relations. So they have the harbor, which means they are able to do the international trading. And then we're looking at the Saldanha Bay. It also have the potential for the development in terms of the agriculture as well as your tourism and the manufacturing. You have seen again in the infographic. Then also, as I've said, they have the harbor, which means they are able to trade in terms of the iron ore. Then we're looking at your question number 4. Your question number 4, you are supposed to explain the main factors that hinder the industrial development in the Southwestern Cape. So you'll remember the factors that hinder. Those are the things that will make this industry not to grow. So number 1, remember I said in the Western Cape, they do not have coal. You'll understand that coal electricity is the one that is cheaper. So therefore, the electricity is expensive. It is located far from the coal. If the electricity is expensive, which means the industries, they will be taking from their profits to pay for electricity. And then secondly, we're looking at the shortages of water in the Southwestern Cape, especially every year they've been hit by drought, which means the industries will suffer again because the industries, they need water to manufacture. And then we're looking at the few minerals that are available in the area. They are only talking about the oil as well as the gas. So it also the part of the hindering factors. And also there is a limited land for expansion. So it's a very small area. They won't be able to expand. Then number 5, you need to explain 2 advantages of industrial decentralization for the core industrial region in South Africa. Again, you will understand when you're talking about decentralization, we are moving industries into the areas whereby they are disadvantaged. So therefore, if we are moving some of the industries, it means there will be a relief in the pressure of the infrastructure. And also, we're looking at there will be less pressure on the services again that will prevent the overutilization of these resources because the industries will be spread out. And then we're also looking at less pollution. You will remember the more the industries in one area, the more the pollution again. Once we do need to grow our economy, but also we need to take care of our environment. So hence decentralization will lead into the less pollution. And then after there will also be the less traffic congestion. Remember again, if more industries in one area, it means there will be more people who will be traveling into that area going to work. That will also lead into the traffic. You will understand that traffic again will also lead into pollution because of the cars that will be emitting a carbon dioxide. And also we're looking at, it will also reduce your rural urban migration. Remember, people, they migrate into the rural areas because they are looking for employment. So if we decentralize, it means people will be forced to stay in the rural areas. And also it will reduce your overcrowding. NE2 times 2. Then we're looking at our last figure, which is figure 2.5. With your figure 2.5, it says refer to the extract below on the informal sector. So you are given the informal sector. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to read the extract on your own before we go to the questions. So I'm going to give you about 3 minutes to read the extract on your own, and then after 3 minutes, we proceed to the questions. Your 3 minutes start now. Right, with the hope that we are all done. So let us look at the questions now. You refer to the extract below on an informal sector. Now that you have read the infographic, the first question, you need to define the term informal sector. You will understand that all the definitions, you will have your 2 marks. Then secondly, who is the beating a heart of South Africa's inner city, for 1 mark. And then the third question, you quote 2 types of products that are being sold by the informal workers from the extract. Again, you need to understand when the question says you need to quote, don't forget to put the inverted commas to show that you have quoted them. And then number 4, you name 2 factors from the extract that causes profit to vary. So 2 factors again from the extract that will cause the profit to vary. Then you have that paragraph question. In your paragraph question, it says, explain which challenge you are explaining. So no one word, which challenges are being faced by the informal sector. You will remember in your explanation, you need to give 4 responses so that you are able to grab all that 8 marks. So you have seen the question. I'm going to give you another 3 minutes to read through the extract now that we have seen the questions. So as we are reading, you need to highlight the answers that you see in terms of those questions where they said refer to the extract, right? Now we are ready to answer the questions. So in answering the questions, I'm going to give you 10 minutes. And then after 10 minutes, we will then be able to proceed to the corrections. Right, girls and boys, I believe that we are all done. So let us look at our solutions. You are supposed to define informal sector, which is the first question. So informal sector, we can say these are the business activities that are unregistered. So you can put them in any other way as long as you emphasize this is the business that is not registered, or it's the business that do not pay tax. So as long as you understand that when we're talking about the sector, we're talking about the business. Now the informal part, the business that is not registered, or the business that do not pay tax. Then secondly, who is the beating heart of South Africa's inner city? Those are the street vendors. Then your question number 3, you are supposed to quote two types of a product that are sold by the informal workers from the extract. Again, not just any types of products, but the one that have been included in the extract. So we have seen there is fruit, there is food, and there is water. So any two. Then we're looking at our fourth question. It says, name two factors from the extract that cause the profit to vary. Again, they said from the extract. So we have seen there the scarcity of spot to sell a good may limit the opportunity. If you don't have a spot, so obviously you won't be able to make that a profit. Then secondly, we're looking at the infrastructure that may be lacking. You will remember the street vendors, most of them, they don't have shelters. So it's part of the infrastructure. And then we're looking at the storage. Again, they need to take their goods every day to home, and then from home to the street, there are no storage facilities. And we're looking at the access to electricity. We have mentioned in the article that some of them, they are selling food. So if there is no electricity, they can't use electricity to cook, which means they need to buy gas, or they need to make any alternative for them to have that food ready. And also, we're looking at the ablution facilities. When we're talking about the ablution, we're talking about the restrooms. You'll understand some of the people, they want to eat where they will be able to have a restroom nearby. And we're looking at your paragraph question. In your paragraph question, you explain the challenges that are being faced by the informal sectors. The first one, the long working hours with a low pay. You understand that this type of job is not guaranteed. You might be there the whole day, and then you find there is no one who have bought. So therefore, there is a low pay with the long hours. And secondly, the theft from the passby. So they don't have insurance, and also they are also vulnerable to theft because anyone can just come and steal their products. And we're looking at the lack of storage facilities. As we have seen, it's also a challenge to them because they need to carry their goods going home and coming back to their spots where they are selling. And also, there are no sanitation facilities. Again, they are there in the street for the whole day. So you can imagine, where are they releasing themselves? And then the harassment from the authorities. Those people, they do not have licenses, or they do not have any documentation for them to be in those spots. So therefore, they are getting the harassment from the authorities. And also, we're looking at there are no access to funding. Remember, their businesses are not registered, so therefore they don't have any business plan. Even if they want to grow their business, the banks, they will not give them the funding, or they will not give them loans because their businesses are not guaranteed. Then lastly, we're looking at the harassment from the authorities. So we've also mentioned that because they do not have the licenses. So any authority, a person, we're talking about the policemen, they can just come and take their stock. And if they take their stock, now they need to pay for their stock in the police station. Then also we're looking at the destruction of stock by the adverse weather conditions. Sometimes it is raining, so they cannot be on their spot outside because they lack the infrastructure, which means on those days they will be suffering. Again, we're looking in terms of those who are selling food. They do not have fridge in that street, which means their food can be spoiled. Then we're gonna summarize what we have learned so far. So we have learned about the types of farming. We have looked into the types of industries. We have looked into the beef production in South Africa. and we have looked into the IDZ, which is the Saldanha Bay, and we have looked into the informal sector. So to give you the preview of our next lesson, we're going to focus on paper 2 revision under question 3. You will remember that question 3 is your map work questions. So we have came to an end of our lesson today. Hopefully you have enjoyed the lesson, but most of all, I hope we have learned something. Thank you and stay tuned for the next one.